On our third wedding anniversary, the gift Chris gave me was a divorce agreement and a woman. Samantha, sign it. He threw the document onto the dining table, the black ink on white paper stinging my eyes. This is Lily, my colleague. From now on, she will take your place and take better care of me. Lily stood behind him, her slightly protruding belly visible. Her face wore a victor's smile, tinged with a perfectly calculated hint of timidness. Sister-in-law, don't blame Chris. It's all my fault. But the child is innocent. I didn't look at her. I just stared at Chris. He thought I would cry, scream, and question him like a shrew. After all, for him, I had given up an offer from a prestigious university abroad, squeezed into a 30-square-meter rental apartment with him, and accompanied him from having nothing to becoming the company owner he was today. But I just smiled. I slowly picked up the agreement and gently blew away the non-existent dust on it. Chris, are you sure you've thought this through? My patience is limited. He frowned in disgust. All right. I pushed the agreement back, enunciating each word clearly. Assets. The company. The child, I want them all. You leave with nothing. Chris looked like he had heard the biggest joke in the world. He sneered, reaching out to tap my forehead. The gesture held no affection, only insult. Samantha, are you awake? Have you forgotten whose company this is? Which of those properties under your name wasn't bought with my money? Even that beat-up car you drive is a hand-me-down from me. The contempt and disdain in his tone were like countless tiny needles pricking into my skin. You're just a housewife. You haven't worked a day in years. What do you have to fight me with? Behind him, Lily covered her mouth at the right moment, looking incredulous. Oh my God. Sister-in-law, you haven't been working all this time. Chris has protected you too well. She turned to Chris, her eyes full of adoration and heartache. Chris, it must be so hard for you to support the family alone. From now on, I'll work hard alongside you. Singing the same tune. Truly a match made in heaven. I picked up the red wine in front of me and swirled it gently. The burgundy liquid coated the glass in beautiful arcs, reflecting my calm, waveless face. Chris, I'll ask you one last time. Are you really sure? Why do you talk so much nonsense? He was completely impatient now. Samantha, I brought Lily here today to inform you, not to discuss with you. You have to sign this whether you want to or not. He thought he held all the cards against me. He thought that leaving him would leave me with nothing, unable to survive. He forgot. Or rather, he never knew who the housewife in his eyes really was. Fine. I put down the wine glass. The base collided with the tabletop, making a crisp sound. In this tense atmosphere, it seemed particularly abrupt. Both Chris and Lily were stunned. I stood up, looking down at them. Since you're in such a hurry to go play daddy for someone else, I'll grant your wish. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in a long time. The call was picked up almost instantly. Brother. From the other end came a steady voice with a hint of laziness. Sam, what made you think of calling me? Is that kid Chris bullying you again? My brother. The true power behind the Miller family. CEO of the Miller Group. Sebastian. Back then, for the sake of so-called love, I insisted on marrying the penniless Chris. Sebastian was so angry he almost cut ties with me. For 3 years, I only reported the good news and hid the bad, almost never contacting him on my own initiative. Brother, I'm getting a divorce. My voice was calm, betraying no emotion. The other end went silent. After a long while, Sebastian's voice sounded again, carrying suppressed anger and a hint of imperceptible satisfaction. Thought it through. Send me the address. I'll send lawyer Zhang over. Okay. Hanging up. I waved the phone screen in front of Chris. My lawyer will contact you. Before you receive the notice, I advise you to behave yourself. Chris' face changed colors. He obviously hadn't expected that not only did I not cry or make a scene, but I also found a lawyer so quickly. This was beyond his control. Samantha, do you think finding some random lawyer will scare me? I'm telling you, it's useless. This company, these assets, don't think about getting a single penny, he shouted, trying to cover his weakness with bluster, attempting to regain some ground. I couldn't be bothered to waste more words on him. We'll see. With that, I picked up my coat and bag and walked straight to the door. Passing by Lily, I stopped. She subconsciously took a step back, protecting her belly, looking at me warily. I smiled and leaned into her ear, speaking in a voice only the two of us could hear. Trying to rise to power through a child. You have to see if you have that kind of fate. Be very careful protecting that belly of yours. Lily's face turned instantly pale. I didn't look at her again. I opened the door and strode away, walking out of the restaurant. The evening breeze blew on my face, carrying a hint of chill. I took a deep breath, and the heaviness in my chest seemed to dissipate considerably. 3 years of marriage. What a joke. It's just as well. It's time to take back everything that belongs to me. I drove back to the home Chris and I shared. A large flat in a high-end residential area in the city center. Every part of this place had been decorated by my own hands. Looking at it now, I only felt irony. I didn't feel a shred of reluctance. I walked straight into the walk-in closet and took out the suitcase I had prepared long ago. Some daily clothes, a few pieces of valuable jewelry, and a file envelope hidden in a secret compartment. After doing all this, I pulled the suitcase, took one last look at this so-called home, turned, and left. Downstairs, a black Bentley had been waiting for a long time. The driver respectfully opened the door for me. Mr. Miller sent me to pick you up. Back to the old mansion. The car drove smoothly into the night. I leaned back in the comfortable seat, watching the streetscape retreating rapidly outside the window. My heart calm. Chris, our game has just begun. Meanwhile, in the restaurant, Chris watched my decisive retreating figure, an inexplicable unease rising in his heart. Samantha's reaction was too abnormal. No hysteria, no bitter weeping, just terrifyingly calm. Chris, sister-in-law she won't do anything drastic, right? Lily timidly tugged at his sleeve. Her, Chris sneered. A woman like her cherishes her life the most. How could she do anything drastic? Despite saying that, the unease grew stronger. He took out his phone to check his bank card balance, but found he couldn't log into the app no matter what. System maintenance. Please try again later. He tried several times in a row, all with the same result. An ominous premonition clouded his mind. He immediately called the bank's account manager. Manager Wang, is there something wrong with my card? Why can't I log in? Manager Wang on the other end sounded very polite, but carried a hint of distance. Hello, Mr. Anderson. Your account has been temporarily frozen due to an abnormal transaction involving a large amount of assets. You and your wife, Ms. Samantha Miller, need to come to the counter together to handle the unfreezing procedure. What? Frozen. Abnormal transaction. Chris' brain buzzed. All assets under his name, including the company accounts, used this main card. Being frozen now meant he instantly became a penniless pauper. Yes, Mr. Anderson. This is the bank's risk control mechanism to ensure the safety of your funds. My wife. What right does she have? That's all my money. Chris almost shouted. Apologies, Mr. Anderson. Because this card is a joint family account for you and Ms. Miller. So, Chris couldn't hear the rest of Manager Wang's words clearly. He only knew that Samantha, that woman, had frozen all his assets less than an hour after he proposed a divorce. What a devastating move. He had always thought Samantha was a docile sheep. He didn't expect her to be a wolf who had long bared her fangs at him. Chris hung up the phone in a rage, his face ashen. He stared fixedly at the divorce agreement on the table, as if trying to burn 2 holes through it. Chris, what's wrong? Did something happen to the company? Lily asked cautiously. She could feel the terrifying anger radiating from Chris. That bitch. Chris slammed his fist on the table, the dishes clattering harshly. She froze all my accounts. Lily turned pale with fright. How could this happen? How did she do it? In her perception, Samantha was a housewife who produced nothing and relied completely on Chris. How could she have such great capability? How should I know? Chris scratched his hair irritably. I really underestimated her. This scheming woman actually pulled this on me. He thought he controlled everything, but he didn't expect to have been calculated by Samantha from the very beginning. That so-called joint family account was something he had actively proposed to open back then to show off his generosity and pampering of Samantha. He had smugly thought at the time. Anyway, Samantha had no brains. Even if the money was together, he still had the final say. Thinking back now, it was simply shooting himself in the foot. Then what do we do now? Lily panicked. The company. Will it be affected? Nonsense. Chris glared at her fiercely. There's a payment to be made tomorrow. With the accounts frozen. What do I use to pay? Once the company's capital chain breaks, it's all over. He had struggled for so many years to finally achieve what he had today. He absolutely couldn't let all this be destroyed in Samantha's hands. No. I must find her. Chris grabbed his jacket, ready to rush out. Chris, where are you going to find her? Lily grabbed him. You don't even know where she went. Chris' steps paused. Yes. He didn't know where Samantha went. In 3 years of marriage, he had never cared about Samantha's family or friends. He only knew she had a brother, but didn't even know his name. In his world, Samantha was just an accessory, a convenient nanny, a pretty wife to show off to outsiders. He had never truly understood her. At this moment, a strong sense of powerlessness surged in Chris' heart for the first time. He realized his understanding of Samantha was pitifully scarce. Chris, don't panic. Lily rolled her eyes, an idea coming to mind. Sister-in-law must just be angry for a moment, trying to scare you. She loves you so much. How could she really bear to leave you with nothing? Just apologize to her properly. Say some soft words, and she'll surely soften her heart. Chris frowned, hesitating. Ask him to apologize to Samantha. How is that possible? He was the ruler of this relationship. Besides, Lily continued to persuade. The most important thing now is to stabilize the company. As long as the company is in your hands, even if you really have to give her some assets, you can quickly rise again. But if the company is gone, then you really have nothing. Lily's words struck a chord in Chris' heart. Right. As long as the Green Hills remain, there's no fear of running out of firewood. As long as the company was there, he had the capital to turn the tables. As for Samantha, once he got through this difficulty, he had plenty of ways to deal with her. Thinking of this, Chris' expression softened a bit. He took out his phone, found Samantha's number, took a deep breath, and dialed. The phone rang for a long time. Just when he thought Samantha wouldn't answer, it finally connected. Samantha, what exactly do you want to do? As soon as the call connected, Chris couldn't help but question her. However, what came from the other end was a strange male voice. Hello, Mr. Anderson. I am MS. Samantha Miller's acting lawyer. My surname is Zhang. Regarding your divorce matters with MS Miller, as well as asset division issues, I will be fully responsible. MS Miller herself will no longer have any direct contact with you. Chris' brain went blank again. Lawyer. So fast. What kind of person did that woman Samantha find? I don't care what lawyer you are. Put Samantha on the phone. This is a matter between husband and wife. No need for outsiders to intervene. Apologies, Mr. Anderson. Lawyer Zhang's voice remained unhurried, but carried an undeniable dominance. From the moment MS Miller entrusted me, this is no longer your family affair, but a legal case that needs serious handling. In addition, I formally notify you. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Please come to my law firm with your lawyer. The address will be sent to your phone shortly. If you do not come, we will take further legal measures. With that, the other party hung up crisply, listening to the busy tone on the phone. Chris was so angry he almost smashed the phone. Legal measures. She dared to threaten him. Good. Very good. Chris laughed in extreme anger. I want to see what tricks you, Samantha, can play. 9 o'clock the next morning. Chris appeared at lawyer Zhang's law firm on time with his company's legal advisor. This was a law firm located in a top office building in the city center. Just the location was enough to demonstrate its strength. Chris' heart couldn't help but sink. He and his lawyer were led into a spacious conference room. Lawyer Zhang was already waiting inside. He looked to be in his 40s, wearing a well-tailored suit, with a refined temperament. But the eyes behind those lenses revealed shrewdness and sharpness. Samantha didn't come. A trace of disappointment and anger flashed through Chris' heart. Mr. Anderson, please sit. Lawyer Zhang pointed to the seat opposite. Chris pulled out the chair and sat down, getting straight to the point. Lawyer Zhang, honest people don't speak in code. What exactly does Samantha want? How much money? Name a price. In his view, Samantha causing so much trouble was nothing more than wanting a bit more money. Lawyer Zhang smiled and pushed a document in front of him. Mr. Anderson speaks frankly, so I won't beat around the bush. This is the asset division plan we drafted based on relevant laws and the prenuptial agreement between you and MS. Miller, you can take a look first. Prenuptial agreement. Chris was stunned. He remembered. Before getting married, Samantha did ask him to sign something. At the time, he didn't look closely, just treating it as a little girl's insecurity. Engaging in formalism. He signed it casually and had long forgotten it completely. Unexpectedly, that was a prenuptial agreement. His hands trembling, he opened the document. When he saw the clauses clearly, the blood drained from his face instantly. The content of the agreement was simple and brutal to an outrageous degree. It clearly stated that after marriage, all income, investment returns, and company equity obtained by Chris in his personal name belonged to his personal property, and all assets under Samantha's name, including premarital property and any gifts received after marriage, also belonged to her personally. The most crucial was the last clause. As compensation for Samantha giving up her career and returning to the family, Chris voluntarily gifted the jointly inhabited property after marriage, as well as 50% of the company equity under his personal name, to Samantha as an irrevocable permanent gift. This agreement was simply a deed of sale. This is impossible. This is fake. I never signed such a thing. Chris stood up excitedly, pointing at the signature on the document, his hands shaking. Mr. Anderson, please calm down. Lawyer Zhang looked at him calmly. This agreement is in triplicate, notarized by the most authoritative notary office, and has full legal effect. Every word, every signature on it is authentic and valid. He paused, then added a sentence. If you have objections to the authenticity of the signature, we can absolutely do a handwriting analysis. Chris knew this signature was real. Of course. He just couldn't accept that back then. He had personally signed an agreement that pushed himself into the abyss. What was he thinking at the time? Oh, he remembered. That day, Samantha brought this document to him, eyes red, saying her family didn't agree to her marrying him, feeling he had no money or power and couldn't give her security. She said as long as he signed this agreement, she would have the confidence to contend with her family, and she could marry him without looking back. He was blinded by so-called love at the time, and felt Samantha's family looked down on people. So with a surge of pride, he signed without thinking. He even felt this was his responsibility and promise as a man. Thinking back now, he was simply the world's biggest fool. He had been played around in circles by that woman Samantha from start to finish. Mr. Anderson, if you have no objections, let's discuss the specific division plan. Lawyer Zhang's voice pulled Chris back from his broken thoughts. According to the agreement, this property located in the city center's Cloud Summit Mansion, as well as 50% of the equity in Soaring Tech held by you, will all belong to MS. Miller. In addition, Lawyer Zhang took out another document. These are 3 loans totaling 5 million yuan provided to you in a personal capacity by MS. Miller's family at the beginning of your company's establishment. The loan contract states an annual interest rate of 10%. Principal and interest to be paid off within 5 years. Now that 3 years have passed, including principal and interest, you need to repay a total of 6,500,000 yuan. What? Loans. Chris was completely dumbfounded. That 5 million. Wasn't that the dowry Samantha's family gave her? He always thought that was a little compensation from the Miller family because they looked down on him. He used that money as startup capital to have today's Soaring Tech. Now, this money turned into a loan. And calculate interest. This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Back then Samantha clearly said this was the dowry her parents gave her. Before he could finish, he was interrupted by Lawyer Zhang. Mr. Anderson, please watch your wording. Black and white. The loan contract is here, with your personal signature on it. If you don't admit it, we can only meet in court. Lawyer Zhang pushed that loan contract over as well. Looking at his bold and flowing signature on it, Chris felt the world spinning. He was finished. He was thoroughly finished. If divided according to this plan, he would not only lose half of the company's equity and lose the house, but also carry a huge debt of 6.5 million. He would return to poverty overnight, even worse than before. No, I don't agree. I absolutely don't agree. Chris roared desperately like a trapped beast. I want to see Samantha. I want to ask her to her face why she's doing this to me. Apologies. MS. Miller does not want to see you. Why won't she see me? We are still legally married. Soon you won't be. Lawyer Zhang said coldly. If you refuse to accept this plan, we will immediately file a lawsuit with the court. At that time, you will not only face asset division but also the pursuit of huge debts. In addition, we also possess sufficient evidence of your cheating within marriage resulting in someone else's pregnancy. Who do you think the judge will favor? Chris' body swayed, and he slumped into the chair. The legal advisor beside him also looked exceptionally grim. He leaned into Chris' ear and whispered, Mr. Anderson, the situation is very unfavorable for us. This prenuptial agreement is almost impeccable, and the other party also has evidence of your infidelity. If we really go to court, our chances of winning are almost zero. Chris' heart sank little by little to the bottom. He knew his lawyer was speaking the truth. He lost, utterly defeated. He couldn't understand how that woman who had been gentle and obedient by his side for 3 years, never daring to say no to him, could suddenly become so strange, so ruthless. She set up a trap for 3 whole years, just waiting for today to kill him with one blow. I need time to consider. Chris' voice was hoarse and dry. Okay. Lawyer Zhang nodded. 3 days. In 3 days. I hope to get your clear answer. Otherwise, we'll see you in court. Walking out of the law firm, the sunlight outside was dazzlingly blinding. Chris felt cold all over, as if fallen into an ice cave. He returned to the company in a daze. Lily immediately came up to him. Chris, how did it go? Did sister-in-law agree to settle? Chris looked at her face full of concern and expectation, and a nameless fire suddenly surged up. If it weren't for this woman, how could he have reached this step today? Get lost. He pushed Lily away, walked straight into his office, and slammed the door shut with a bang. Lily stumbled from his push, almost falling. She clutched her belly, blood draining from her face, eyes full of grievance and disbelief. In the office, Chris paced irritably back and forth. No, he couldn't just admit defeat. He absolutely couldn't give half the company to Samantha. That was his life's blood, his everything. A hint of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. Since Samantha was unkind, don't blame him for being unjust. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. Hello. Is this Mr. Wang? This is Chris Anderson. I agree to the plan you mentioned last time. We cooperate to kick another shareholder out of the company. Then, the whole company will be ours. Mr. Wang on the other end was a competitor of his who had always wanted to annex his company. Chris had never agreed before, but now, he had no choice. Rather than giving half the company to Samantha, it was better to bring in outside help to dilute Samantha's 50% equity first, so she couldn't get a single penny. As long as he could still control the company, he still had a chance to turn things around. He didn't believe that Samantha, a housewife who knew nothing, could outplay him in the business world. Chris calculated furiously. Besides himself, his company had a small shareholder named Jason. Jason was his college classmate. When the company was founded, Jason also invested a sum of money, holding 20% of the shares. But in recent years, Jason had been very passive, never participating in company management, just waiting for dividends at the end of the year. In Chris' view, Jason was useless waste taking up space. Kicking him out and replacing him with the powerful Mr. Wang would not only solve the immediate funding crisis, but also leverage Mr. Wang's resources to take the company to a higher level. Most importantly, as long as new capital was introduced for capital increase and share expansion, the so-called 50% equity in Samantha's hands would be infinitely diluted and become worthless. Killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Simply a perfect plan. The more Chris thought about it, the more excited he got, as if he had already seen the scene of his comeback and trampling Samantha under his feet. He immediately took action and secretly signed a cooperation agreement with Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang's funds arrived quickly, solving the company's urgent needs. Chris breathed a sigh of relief and began to prepare for the shareholders' meeting to formally kick Jason out. He also specially found a professional PR team to start spreading unfavorable rumors about Samantha online. Wealthy family outcast, insatiably greedy, attempting to sweep away all her husband's assets. Deep schemer, plotting for 3 years just to get a huge fortune in the divorce. Formerly loving couple, now facing each other in court. The truth behind is staggering. Posts like these spread across major online platforms overnight. Although no names were mentioned, all information pointed to Samantha. Chris' goal was clear. He wanted to ruin Samantha's reputation and make her a rat crossing the street that everyone shouted to beat. He wanted everyone to know that it wasn't him, Chris, who was heartless. But that Samantha, this woman, was too vicious. He even bought off some media, preparing to conduct a live broadcast on the day of the shareholders' meeting, portraying himself as a victim betrayed by his wife and forced into a corner. After doing all this, Chris felt he had regained control of the situation. He smugly called Lawyer Zhang. Lawyer Zhang, tell Samantha to come to the company's shareholders meeting in 3 days. Doesn't she want company equity? I'll give her this chance. Just wonder if she'll still have the face to come then. Lawyer Zhang on the other end just said a faint understood and hung up. This calmness made Chris a bit unhappy, but he quickly threw this unhappiness to the back of his mind. Right now, he just wanted to see Samantha ruined and left with nothing. On the other side, the old Miller mansion. Samantha was sitting leisurely in the garden having afternoon tea. On the tablet next to her, the news smearing her online was playing. Miss, do you want to deal with these things? The butler stood aside and asked respectfully. No need. Samantha put down the teacup, a cold smile curling her lips. Let him make a scene. The bigger the better. The higher he jumps, the harder he'll fall. She had long expected Chris to jump over the wall like a desperate dog. She just didn't expect his methods would be so low-class. Is everything arranged with Jason? All arranged, the butler replied. Mr. Jason is loyal to you. He has reported every move of Chris to us immediately. Samantha nodded. Jason. How could he be Chris' college classmate? He was actually a business talent cultivated by the Miller family from childhood. A pawn planted beside Chris. When Chris started his business, Samantha gave him the first sum of money in the name of dowry, and had Jason inject the second sum in the name of classmate investment, allowing Soaring Tech to start smoothly. It could be said that without the Miller family, there would be no Chris today. Unfortunately, Chris was blinded by success and had long forgotten his roots. He really thought he was the chosen one, having conquered a territory with his own abilities. Truly pathetic and laughable. What about that Mr. Wang? Samantha asked again. Also investigated clearly. The butler handed over a file. His Grand Plan Group has been going downhill in recent years, and the capital chain is very tight. To cooperate with Chris this time, he mortgaged most of his assets for a bank loan. Once the cooperation fails, he will go bankrupt immediately. Samantha flipped through the file and smiled. Very good. Then let him and Chris go to hell together. She stood up and stretched. Did you say hello to brother? The master said he can't wait to see this good show. Tell him. The show is about to start. 3 days later, the shareholders' meeting was held as scheduled. The conference room of Soaring Tech was full of people. Chris sat in the main seat in high spirits, next to his new ally, Mr. Wang. Jason sat in the corner, his face looking a bit ugly. Outside the conference room, reporters who had heard the news were crowded, long guns and short cannons ready for battle. Chris cleared his throat and began his emotional performance into the microphone. He first heartbreakingly recounted how he started from scratch, founded the company, and how much effort he put in. Then the conversation turned, and he began to accuse his ex-wife of being insatiably greedy, showing an ugly face after his success, attempting to take everything of his for herself. Chris, ask myself if I have ever wronged her. I gave her the most affluent life so she didn't have to run around for a living. But her, how did she treat me? She stabbed me the hardest in the back. He spoke with tears, his acting realistic, causing many people present to show sympathy. The reporters' flashes flashed nonstop. Today, I invited everyone here to make a break in front of everyone. Chris raised his volume, a desperate determination on his face. I announced that the company will increase capital and expand shares. Mr. Wang of Grand Plan Group will inject 100 million to become the new major shareholder of our Soaring Tech. At the same time, I propose to remove Mr. Jason from his shareholder status. He holds 20% of the company's shares, but has never made any contribution to the company. Such a person does not deserve to stay in our company. As soon as his voice fell, Mr. Wang took the lead in applauding. Several other small shareholders bought by Chris also echoed. Jason was angry and flushed, standing up and pointing at Chris. Chris, you burned the bridge after crossing it. I call this cleaning up the house. Chris sneered. Jason, if you get out yourself, you can still save some face. Otherwise, don't blame me for not caring about old feelings. Just when Chris thought victory was in his grasp and was ready to vote, the door of the conference room was pushed open. A cold female voice resounded through the venue. Who gave you the power to clean up my house? Everyone's eyes turned to the door in unison. Samantha, wearing a capable white suit skirt, hair up, with exquisite light makeup, walked in step by step in high heels. Behind her followed lawyer Zhang and two bodyguards in black suits with grim expressions. At this moment, her aura was fully unleashed, completely different from the dependent housewife Chris described. Chris' pupils shrank sharply. He didn't expect Samantha would really dare to come, and in such a posture he had never seen before. Reporters, like sharks smelling blood, boiled instantly. All lenses aimed at Samantha. Ms. Miller, do you have any response to Mr. Anderson's accusations? Is it true that you divorced Mr. Anderson for assets? Is your appearance today to save this marriage? Various sharp questions smashed toward Samantha like cannonballs. But Samantha turned a deaf ear. Her gaze crossed everyone and fell straight on Chris' face. That look was cold, sharp, with a trace of mockery, and a trace of pity. Chris felt his heart crawl under her gaze and subconsciously avoided her eyes. Samantha, what are you doing here? He shouted sternly, trying to hide his weakness. This is the company's shareholders' meeting. You, an outsider, have no right to enter. Outsider. Samantha smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Chris, have you forgotten that I hold 50% of your company's equity? Logically, I am the biggest shareholder here. You, Chris choked, then sneered. So what? I'm about to increase capital and expand shares. Your little equity will soon become a pile of waste paper. I advise you to be sensible. Take the little money I gave you and get lost. Don't humiliate yourself here. Is that so? Samantha raised an eyebrow. Who told you that you have the power to decide on capital increase and share expansion? Of course I do. Chris slapped the table. I am the founder and CEO of the company. I have the final say. Oh. Samantha pulled over a chair, sat down gracefully, and crossed her legs. But as far as I know, the company's articles of association clearly state that any major resolution regarding equity changes must be agreed upon by shareholders holding more than 2/3 of the shares. I didn't agree. Mr. Jason didn't agree. Did you ask us? Chris' face stiffened. He really hadn't thought about this problem. He thought that as long as he settled Mr. Wang and kicked Jason out, he would be the absolute controlling shareholder and could do whatever he wanted. Jason won't be a shareholder soon, he insisted stubbornly. Once he's out, the shares of the two of us combined will exceed 2/3. Is that so? Samantha's gaze turned to Jason in the corner. Mr. Jason, what do you say? Jason, who had been looking ugly, suddenly stood up at this time. The anger and unwillingness on his face swept away, replaced by a kind of respect. He bowed slightly to Samantha. Miss. This miss was like thunder on flat ground, exploding the entire conference room into silence. Everyone was confused. Chris' eyes almost popped out. Jason, what did you call her? Jason ignored him, but took a document out of his briefcase and handed it to Samantha. Miss, this is my equity proxy agreement. The 20% shares under my name have actually always been your personal property. Samantha took the document, didn't even look at it, and threw it on the table. That means. Her gaze returned to Chris' face, speaking word by word. I now hold 70% of the company's shares. Chris, tell me, on what basis are you kicking me out? Chris' brain was blank. 70%. Samantha actually held 70% of the shares. Jason was actually her person. How is this possible? He felt his worldview collapse completely at this moment. He always thought he was the hunter controlling the whole situation, but didn't expect that from beginning to end. He was just prey in someone else's net. No. Impossible. This must be a scam you cooked up together. He shook his head frantically, unable to accept this fact. Mr. Wang beside him also looked extremely grim. He originally wanted to pick up a bargain, but didn't expect to step into such a big pit. If Samantha really held 70% of the shares, then the $100 million injection agreement he just signed was simply a joke. Mr. Wang. Right. Samantha's gaze finally fell on him. Mr. Wang's heart skipped a beat, forcing a smile. MS. Miller. I don't care what agreement you reached with Chris. Samantha's voice wasn't loud, but carried an undeniable oppressive force. Now, as the largest shareholder of the company, I formally announce that Soaring Tech refuses all forms of capital increase and share expansion. That so-called cooperation of yours is void. In addition, she looked at Lawyer Zhang. Lawyer Zhang, bring up the gift we prepared for Mr. Wang. Lawyer Zhang nodded and handed a document to Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang took it doubtfully, looked at it once, and was struck by lightning, trembling all over. It was a detailed investigation report on tax evasion and financial fraud of his company Grand Plan Group. Every transaction, every item, was recorded clearly with irrefutable evidence. Once this thing was exposed, he would not only go bankrupt but also face prison. You guys. Mr. Wang pointed at Samantha, his lips trembling, unable to say a word. Mr. Wang, the most important thing in business is to keep your eyes open. Samantha said lightly, some people are not for you to cooperate with. Now, take your things and get out of my company. Otherwise, I can't guarantee where this report will appear next second. Mr. Wang's cold sweat soaked his back instantly. How could he dare to hesitate? He grabbed the report and scrambled out of the conference room as if evil spirits were chasing him. The reporters were dumbfounded. This reversal came too fast and too excitingly. 1 second, President Anderson and President Wang were high-spirited. The next second, one became a stray dog, and the other a bird startled by a bough. And the manipulator of all this was Samantha, whom they portrayed as a wealthy family outcast. All lenses aimed frantically at Samantha again. What was this woman's background? The conference room fell into dead silence. Those small shareholders who had just echoed Chris now lowered their heads, silent as cicadas in winter, wishing they could find a crack in the ground to crawl into. Chris slumped in his chair, face ashen. He lost thoroughly, with no power to fight back. His proud schemes were as laughable as child's play in front of Samantha. All his trump cards were easily overturned by the opponent. He didn't even know how he lost. Samantha didn't look at him again. She stood up and walked to the main seat. That position originally belonged to Chris. She looked around at everyone in the conference room, her voice cold and powerful. From today on, I, Samantha Miller, will officially take over Soaring Tech. All management positions in the company will be reevaluated and appointed. Her gaze finally fell on Chris. As for Mr. Chris Anderson, given your poor character and low ability, you are no longer suitable for any position in the company. From now on, you are fired. In addition, she paused, a cruel arc hooking the corner of her lips. Don't forget, you still owe me $6.5 million. My lawyer will apply to the court for enforcement as soon as possible. I hope you have the ability to repay this debt. With that, she turned to Lily beside her. Oh, no. She should be called Miss Brown now. From the moment Samantha appeared, Lily hid in the corner, trying hard to lower her presence. She never imagined that the sister-in-law who was docile and incompetent in her eyes, whom she could handle at will, would be such a big shot. She felt like a jumping clown, presumptuously showing off in front of the Real Queen. Miss Brown. Samantha's voice made her tremble all over. She looked up, meeting Samantha's cold eyes. So scared her legs went soft. Sis. MS. Miller. I remember you are the company's accountant. Yes. Very good. Samantha nodded. Lawyer Zhang, bring out the other gift we prepared for Miss Brown. Lawyer Zhang took out another document from his briefcase. Watching that document, an ominous premonition even stronger than Mr. Wang's just now instantly enveloped Lily. What is this? She asked tremblingly. Look for yourself. Lily took the document with shaking hands. It was detailed evidence of her embezzling company funds and cooking the books by taking advantage of her position. The destination of every sum was clearly investigated. Most of it was used to buy luxury goods and sent to her parents and younger brother in the countryside. The total amount was as high as 3 million. No. This isn't true. This is forged. Lily screamed, tearing the document to shreds. I didn't take the company's money. Whether you did or not isn't up to you. Samantha's voice was like a judgment from hell. The company's surveillance, bank statements, won't lie. Embezzling 3 million in public funds, a huge amount, is enough for you to reflect properly in prison for 10 or 8 years. 10 or 8 years. Lily's vision went black, almost fainting. Her life was completely over. She originally thought that by climbing the high branch of Chris, she could fly up the branch and become a phoenix. Unexpectedly, this wasn't a high branch at all, but a huge trap. She and Chris were just ants played at will in Samantha's palm. Security. Samantha spoke lightly. 2 bodyguards immediately stepped forward, one on each side, holding up the limp Lily. Send her to where she belongs. Yes, miss. No, don't. I was wrong. Ms. Miller. I really was wrong. Please let me go. I'm carrying your child in my belly. Lily finally broke down, crying and begging for mercy. She wanted to use the child as the last bet. Samantha's steps paused. She turned around, walked to Lily, squatted down, and looked her in the eye. My child. She smiled, smiling incredibly ironically. Did you misunderstand something? The father of my child will only be a dragon among men, a favored son of heaven, and the one in your belly. His father is about to become a debt-ridden, penniless pauper. Do you think he deserves it? Lily's crying stopped abruptly. She stared blankly at Samantha, as if knowing this woman for the first time. It turned out that from beginning to end, Samantha didn't take Chris seriously. Her so-called love, so-called marriage, in Samantha's view, might just be a boring game. And now, the game was over. Samantha stood up, not looking at her again. Take her away. No. Samantha. You poisonous woman. You'll die a horrible death. Lily's curses drifted further away until they disappeared outside the door. In the conference room, dead silence returned. Chris sat there blankly, like a puppet whose soul had been drawn out. Poisonous woman. Yes, Samantha was indeed a poisonous woman. But what about himself? He betrayed his marriage, forced his wife for a mistress, even did not hesitate to ruin her reputation, wanting her to leave with nothing. What kind of good person was he? He was just inferior in skill, losing to this woman who was ruthless and more capable than him. He lost. Convincingly. No, he didn't accept it. He still had one last card. He stood up abruptly, rushed to Samantha, eyes red. Samantha, you can't treat me like this. Have you forgotten the feelings between us? Have you forgotten what you said back then? You said you loved me. You said you would be with me forever. And our child, little Bao. He's only 3. Can you bear for him to not have a father? Can you bear for him to live in a broken family? He tried to use past affection, use the child, to awaken Samantha's last trace of pity. However, Samantha just looked at him coldly, like looking at a stranger. Feelings. From the moment you appeared in front of me with that woman and the divorce agreement, there was only a ledger left between us. As for little Bao, she paused, a trace of real coldness flashing in her eyes. Don't worry, he will have the best father in the world. But that person will definitely not be you. You absolutely don't deserve to be his father. Chris was pierced to the core by Samantha's words. His last hope was shattered too. Looking at this familiar yet strange woman in front of him, a monstrous hatred and unwillingness surged in his heart. Samantha, why? Why exactly are you doing this to me? He roared. Since you have such a big background, what couldn't you have? Why did you have to provoke me? Giving me hope and then destroying it with your own hands. Is playing me fun. He felt he was the biggest clown in the world. Everything he had struggled for half his life and was proud of was just a joke in Samantha's eyes. Watching his near-mad appearance, Samantha finally moved a little. That was a kind of pity after seeing through all truths. Chris, do you really want to know why? Her voice was very light. Very light. Chris was stunned, staring at her blankly. Because I once really loved you. A trace of complex emotion flashed in Samantha's eyes. Nostalgia, disappointment, and finality. When I met you, you were a poor boy with nothing, but you had talent, ambition, and drive. You would queue for hours on a winter night just to buy me a roasted sweet potato I loved. You would guard me inseparable when I was sick, telling me lame jokes. Back then, there was light in your eyes. I thought I found someone I could entrust my life to, so I was willing to give up everything for you, to start from zero with you. Listening to Samantha's words, Chris couldn't help but recall the past. Those days squeezed in a rental house, poor but full of hope and warmth. At that time, they really loved each other. His heart couldn't help but soften. Sam, but you changed. Samantha interrupted him. When did you start changing? Was it when the company got on track? Or when you got your first million in dividends? You started getting busier and busier, coming home later and later. You started disliking the food I cooked for not being exquisite enough, disliking the clothes I wore for not being high class enough. You started lingering in various places of sensual pleasure, surrounded by all kinds of women. You forgot your original promise, forgot the days we suffered together. Your eyes no longer had me, only money, power, and desire. Chris, ask yourself, in these 3 years, have you really treated me as your wife? Have you cared about me? Do you know what I like and hate? Do you know what our son Little Bao's favorite toy is? And what he fears most? Samantha's series of questions were like sharp knives, stabbing fiercely into Chris' heart. He opened his mouth but couldn't say a word, because he really didn't know. He couldn't even remember when the last time he took his son to the amusement park was. So, it wasn't me playing you. It was you who destroyed everything we had with your own hands. The last trace of warmth in Samantha's eyes disappeared, leaving only cold resolution. I gave you chances. When you didn't come home for the first time. When rumors about you and other women first came out. I reminded you indirectly. I thought you would restrain yourself, would turn back. But I was wrong. You took my tolerance for weakness. You took my concessions as your capital. Until you appeared in front of me with Lily. At that moment, my heart died completely. A man can stop loving, but he cannot be without a bottom line. And you, Chris, you have no bottom line. Samantha's words were like a basin of ice water, soaking Chris from head to toe. He finally understood. It wasn't Samantha who changed. It was him. It was him who pushed the girl who once had only him in her heart into the abyss step by step, and also pushed himself to a dead end. So, all this was planned by you long ago? He asked hoarsely. No. Samantha shook her head. I never thought of ending our relationship this way. My original plan was to confess everything to you after you completely controlled the company and stood firm. And then our family would live well. I even thought that if one day you got tired of the deceit in the business world, we could hand the company to professional managers and travel the world. But you didn't give me this chance. A tragic smile appeared on Samantha's face. Chris, do you know? Soaring Tech was a gift I gave you from the beginning. You thought that 5 million startup capital was all your assets. Actually, that was just a small part one randomly took from the pocket money my father gave me. You thought Jason was your classmate. Actually, he is one of my father's most capable subordinates, sent to assist and protect you. You thought those big projects you won relied on your ability and luck. Actually, behind every project, there was the shadow of the Miller family. It was my father paving the way for you. Everything you were proud of, your company, your achievements, your career, in the end, was just a stage built for you by my Miller family. If we want you up, you can go up. If we want you down, you have to roll down anytime. You're just a self-righteous man-eating flower kept in a greenhouse by the Miller family. These words were more painful to Chris than any torture. It completely destroyed his last dignity and pride as a man. He always thought he was the favored son of heaven, conquering this territory with his own hands. In the end, he was just a gigolo kept by a rich girl, a pitiful worm living in lies woven by others without knowing it. Chris let out a beast-like roar, eyes bloodshot, and pounced fiercely at Samantha. He lost his reason. He only wanted to destroy the woman in front of him, destroy this demon who played him in the palm of her hand. However, before he could touch the corner of Samantha's clothes, he was firmly pressed to the ground by 2 bodyguards. Like a mad dog, he struggled and roared frantically on the ground, but to no avail. Samantha looked at him indifferently, like looking at a stranger unrelated to her. Send him to where he belongs to, she ordered lightly. Yes, miss. Chris was dragged out, his desperate and venomous roar echoing in the empty conference room for a long time. Samantha stood still, motionless. After a long time, She slowly closed her eyes. A clear tear rolled down from the corner of her eye. Goodbye, Chris. Goodbye, my dead, foolish love. After dealing with Chris and Lily, Samantha didn't leave immediately. She sat back in the main seat, her gaze sweeping over the remaining small shareholders in the conference room. Those people lowered their heads one by one, bodies trembling slightly, not even daring to breathe loudly. Just now, they were all standing on Chris' side, echoing to kick Jason out. Now the tide had turned. How would the newly appointed big boss deal with them? Everyone's heart was in their throat. Everyone. Samantha finally spoke, voice not loud, but clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. You must have seen what happened just now. I don't care for what reason you chose to side with Chris before. I will only give you one chance. She paused, her sharp gaze sweeping over everyone's face one by one. Now, you can choose whether to take your shares and get out immediately, or stay and continue to work for the company. I'll put the ugly words first. For those who choose to get out, I will acquire your shares at market price. We part on good terms. For those who choose to stay, you must completely obey my instructions from now on. If I find anyone playing tricks behind my back, biting the hand that feeds them. Her voice turned cold abruptly. Then, the fate of Chris and Lily will be your example. As soon as these words came out, everyone present felt a chill on their backs. They had no doubt that this young and beautiful woman absolutely had the ability to do what she said. For a moment, a pin drop could be heard in the conference room. Everyone fell into a difficult choice. Getting out meant getting a considerable amount of cash immediately, but completely cutting ties with Soaring Tech. Although Soaring Tech was experiencing turbulence now, discerning people could see that with the behemoth of the Miller family backing it, future development was limitless. Quitting now was tantamount to giving up a gold mine, but staying meant working under such a strong and ruthless woman. A slight carelessness might lead to eternal doom. After a long time, finally, one person stood up tremblingly. MS Miller. I am old, lacking energy. Want to go home and retire. I am willing to sell my shares. Samantha looked at him and nodded. Okay, Jason, write it down. After the meeting, find lawyer Zhang to handle the procedures. Yes, miss. With the first one, there was a second, a third. Soon, another 2 or 3 people chose to quit. They were all veterans who started the business with Chris. Knowing they had close relations with Chris, Samantha couldn't trust them anymore. So they simply took the money and left to protect themselves. Samantha didn't make things difficult for them and agreed one by one. Finally, 3 people remained in the conference room. They looked at each other. And finally, the youngest one summoned the courage to stand up. MS Miller. We are willing to stay. His voice trembled a bit due to nervousness. We believe that under your leadership, the company will develop better. We are willing to work like dogs and horses for you. Samantha looked at him, a smile finally appearing on her face. Very good. You made a wise choice. She stood up. From today on, the 3 of you are members of the company's newly established decision committee. The daily operations of the company will be jointly responsible by you. Jason will serve as the chairman of the committee. Your salaries and dividends will be doubled on the original basis. Hearing this, the 3 were immediately surprised and delighted. They thought Samantha would take the opportunity to suppress them. But unexpectedly, not only did she not, but she entrusted them with important tasks and gave them a raise. This was simply a pie falling from the sky. Thank you, MS Miller. Thank you, MS Miller. We will devote ourselves entirely until death. The 3 were excitedly incoherent, repeatedly expressing loyalty. Samantha nodded with satisfaction. A stick, then a sweet date. Applying grace and authority together is always the most effective means to conquer people's hearts. What she wanted was not a one-person rule, but a team that could operate efficiently and be absolutely loyal to her. All right, today's meeting ends here. Samantha waved her hand. Starting tomorrow, I don't hope to see anything related to Chris in the company anymore. Change the company name too. Let's call it Sunny Tech. Yes, everyone responded in unison. After dealing with company matters, Samantha returned to the old Miller mansion. As soon as she entered, she saw her father, Sebastian Miller Sr., chairman of the Miller Group, sitting on the living room sofa, leisurely sipping tea. Back, Sebastian Sr. put down the teacup and looked at her smilingly. Dad. Samantha walked over and sat beside him. All cleaned up. What about that kid surnamed Anderson? Sent to where he belongs. Sebastian Sr. nodded, a look of satisfaction on his face. Told you long ago that kid wasn't anything good. But you wouldn't listen. Insisted on hitting the south wall yourself. His tone carried a hint of blame, but more heartache. Know the pain now. Samantha leaned on her father's shoulder like a wrong child. Dad, I was wrong. Good that you know you were wrong. Sebastian Sr. patted her hand. Learn from mistakes. Daughters of our Miller family can be crazy for love, but absolutely cannot be trapped by love. If you fall, just get up. What about the little guy? He changed the subject and asked. Little Bao is sleeping upstairs. Nanny Lou is watching him. Sebastian Sr. pondered for a moment. What are your plans next? I want to personally take over Sunny Tech, Samantha said. This was a decision she had thought about for a long time. Before, she treated the company as a gift to Chris, as a symbol of their love. Now, she wanted to treat it as her own career. Thought it through. Samantha's eyes became firm. Dad, brother, you have paved too many roads for me. I want to walk the rest of the road myself. Looking at the light reignited in his daughter's eyes, Sebastian Sr. smiled gratifyingly. Good. Worthy of being Sebastian Miller's daughter. Ambitious. He stood up, walked to the bookshelf, and took out an unsophisticated wooden box from a secret compartment. This was originally meant to be given to you as dowry when you got married. Now it seems it's time to give it to you. He handed the wooden box to Samantha. Samantha opened it doubtfully. Lying quietly inside was not gold, silver, or jewelry, but a seemingly plain jade seal. Carved on the bottom of the seal were two ancient seal characters. Dubhi. This is. Samantha picked up the seal, feeling it warm but heavy as 1,000 pounds. This is the true core of the Miller family. Sebastian Sr.'s voice carried a trace of solemnity. Our Miller family appears to be a commercial group doing legitimate business. But in reality, our true foundation is the Dubhi intelligence network spread all over the world. Dubhi. Samantha's heart skipped a beat. She had heard this name. In the business world, this was a legendary existence. It was said that Dubhi controlled the world's top intelligence resources, from state secrets to rich people's privacy. Knowing everything, countless people wanted to find it, rope it in, but all returned without success. No one knew where Dubhi's headquarters were, let alone who its controller was. She never imagined that this mysterious organization was actually her family's property. Dubhi is jointly controlled by 7 seals, corresponding to the Big Dipper. Dubhi, Merak, Fekta, Migras, Alioth, Mizar, and Alcade. Sebastian Sr. explained. What I hold is the main seal Dubhi. What your brother holds is Alcade. The remaining 5 are held by the 5 most loyal branches of the Miller family respectively. This Migras seal was originally prepared for your future husband. Since that kid surnamed Anderson doesn't deserve it, then it belongs to you now. Sebastian Sr. solemnly handed the seal carved with Migras to Samantha. From today on, you are the wielder of Migras. You can mobilize 30% of Dubhi's intelligence resources and operational forces in the Asian region. Dad, this is too precious. Samantha felt her hands trembling. She knew this small seal represented immense power and wealth. Take it. Sebastian Sr.'s tone was unquestionable. This is what you deserve. And the Miller family's compensation to you. Remember, people of our Miller family will never be bullied by anyone. Whoever dares to touch a hair on you will pay 100, 1,000 times the price. Samantha held that seal tightly, a warm current surging through her body. This is family. No matter how high you fly, how far you go, they are always your most solid backing. 1 month later, Sunny Tech, under Samantha's iron-fisted rectification, took on a new look. The company's business was booming. The stock price soared, and the market value tripled compared to when Chris was there. The name Samantha Miller also became a rising star, a legend in the business world. Everyone knew that this young and beautiful female CEO not only had thunderous methods, but also an unfathomable background. No one dared to underestimate her anymore, let alone provoke her. That day, Samantha just finished a meeting and returned to the office. The secretary knocked and entered. Ms. Miller. There is a gentleman named Anderson downstairs who wants to see you. He doesn't have an appointment. Samantha's hand reading the document paused. Surnamed Anderson. She knew who it was. Calculating the time. He should be out. Let him come up. Yes. A few minutes later, the office door was pushed open. Chris walked in. He was thinner, haggard, looking 10 years older. The suit on him was crumpled, no longer having the brightness of the past. That month of imprisonment and the huge debt of $6.5 million had completely crushed this once arrogant man. What do you want with me? Samantha didn't look up, her voice cold. Chris stood in front of the desk, uneasy, like a child who did something wrong. Looking at this radiant woman in front of him, he felt incredibly strange and distant. He couldn't even believe that this queen ruling a business empire was once the wife who pleased him and cooked for him. I came to apologize to you. He summoned his courage and spoke with difficulty. Sam, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I shouldn't have betrayed you. Shouldn't have hurt you. Give me another chance. Okay. He kneeled on the ground with a thud. Let's remarry. I swear I will treat you well. Treat little Bao well in the future. I will listen to everything you say. Work like an ox and horse for you. He wept bitterly, humble into the dust. He thought as long as he lowered his posture, as long as he was sincere enough, Samantha would soften. After all, she once loved him so much. However, Samantha just put down the document in her hand, looked up, and quietly watched him. That look had no anger, no mockery, not even hate, only a deadly calm. Chris, have you forgotten we are already divorced? We can remarry. The law allows it. But I don't allow it. Samantha stood up, walked to him, looking down at him. Do you know, seeing you now, I only feel disgusted. What I regret most is not falling in love with you, but not throwing you away immediately after discovering you were trash. Instead, I let you stay in my life for so long. Chance. I gave you countless times. It was you who threw it into the trash can time and time again. Now that you have nothing, you want to come back to me. What do you take me for? A recycling station. Every word of Samantha was like a knife, slicing Chris' heart. All his hopes, all his fantasies, were shattered at this moment. He finally understood. He could never go back. He lost this woman forever. As for little Bao, Samantha's voice was cold as ice. He is doing very well now. He has a new father, a man 10,000 times better than you. He will give him the fatherly love and example you could never give. So, put away your pitiful posture and disappear completely from my world. In the future, don't appear in front of me and my son again. Otherwise, I don't guarantee whether you can stand here soundly like now. Samantha's words, like a final judgment, nailed Chris to the pillar of shame. He slumped on the ground, face ashen, unable to say another word. New father, a man 10,000 times better than him. It turned out she had long found a successor for herself and her son. It turned out that from beginning to end, he was just a dispensable passerby. The deep affection and repentance he thought were just a disgusting performance in the other's eyes. Security. Samantha pressed the internal phone on the desk. Soon, 2 security guards rushed in. Invite this gentleman out. In the future, without my permission, he is not allowed to step into this building again. Yes, Ms. Miller. Chris was dragged out like a dead dog. He didn't resist, nor begged for mercy again, because he knew it was all over. His life had completely drawn a full stop the moment he decided to betray Samantha. In the office, quiet was restored. Samantha walked to the huge floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the bustling city under her feet. Traffic flowing, people coming and going. Everyone was busy running for their desires and goals. She used to be just an ordinary woman among these beings, longing for love and family. It was Chris' betrayal that made her grow up overnight. It was the family's power that let her be reborn from the ashes. She didn't thank suffering. She only thanked herself for not giving up on herself in despair. The phone vibrated gently. It was a message from her brother Sebastian. All solved. A faint smile curled up on Samantha's lips. She replied, Soon. Sebastian's call came. Bring little Bao home for dinner tonight. Dad stewed your favorite black chicken soup. Okay. By the way, Sebastian's tone suddenly became a bit gossipy. What do you think of that Wall Street financial tycoon, Mr. Lee. Mentioned last time. He can't forget you. Asking me about your situation every day. A handsome and refined figure with a warm smile appeared in Samantha's mind. That was a man she met at a business cocktail party some time ago. Mature, steady, capable, looking at her with admiration and respect. Unlike Chris, only possession and desire. Well, see, Samantha didn't agree, but didn't refuse either. Her life couldn't just have a Chris. She was still very young, and the future held infinite possibilities. She had a family who loved her, a lovely son, a successful career. She possessed the whole world. She no longer needed to rely on a man's love to prove her value. Hanging up the phone, she picked up her coat and walked out of the office. The afterglow of the setting sun shone on her through the glass, plating her with a golden halo. Stepping in high heels, her pace firm and calm. Behind her was the empire she conquered with her own hands. Before her was a brand new, vast sunny sky belonging to her. The elevator door opened, and she walked in, looking at the radiant, determined self in the mirror. Samantha's mouth raised a confident and calm smile. Everything in the past was just passing clouds. Samantha's life had just begun. Her brilliance would never end.